It's been a lot longer since Gorillaz released their last album.
2010, fall, December 2010.
And they're back. And what do you think, Dave? I mean, listened?
Who's they? You know,
It's
I don't know what pronoun they use for the Gorillaz. Damon
it's,
Albarn and his collaborators.
It's they. It's 2D and Murdoch Nichols and Noodle and Hobbs. They're all back, man.
I love to see video of them in the booth.
They probably have some sort of animated video of them hanging out.
The video of them doing Feel Good Inc.
Feel Good
live at the Grammys with De La in like 2005 is actually pretty cool because it was the animated guys and then the actual members of De La Soul.
From everything I've seen, that actually like the way that they pull the concerts off is pretty awesome. Because basically just like the band sits in the back pretty much, and Damon Albarn's kind of running around playing instruments, and then like all the guests just kind of come on from the side whenever and jump in. There's
and I'm sure. I mean, they have their upcoming tour, which is already like completely sold out.
Oh yeah, and Gorillaz is going to be headlining the Meadows this year.
Right, that's one of the few dates that you can't buy tickets to yet.
Right,
but the effects are much better now, so I'm sure it'll be even a crazier show. Definitely. But they said they want to get a lot of these features at some of the dates. Damon said that if ideally he'd want to get everyone at least a few.
Right.
Throughout the whole tour.
Yeah,
because there's quite a lot of features.
It'll be interesting to see who actually like comes out with him, because he got some pretty big names. Like
it's quite diverse.
Grace Jones is one that is like a really hard name to get. She hasn't really like played music in like a decade.
Mavis Staples. She's pretty old.
And there was another one. I just had the album pulled up, but it'll still be interesting if he actually gets a lot of these names. I'm sure like he'll just have other people sub in at times too.
I mean, you have your Pusha T's, your Drams, your Vince Staples, your Pop Cans.
Right.
You'll have them at some shows.
Yeah, and also like people
Danny Brown.
Yeah, like on Hallelujah Money, Benjamin St. Clementine. I've actually never seen him perform, and he's like a very like obscure like UK like poet / musician. Also, he had a really cool story about him. I was reading up on him today. Apparently, he was homeless until like early 20s, and he started like all these performances. That's how he became not homeless, from being really good at these things. So kind of a really interesting person who writes a lot of poetry. But anyways, what was your favorite feature on this album?
Probably Pusha T.
It sounds like a Pusha song.
Exactly, and that's kind of my overall take. I didn't think it was like a fantastic Pusha verse, right? Like, I just thought it worked best on the song. Like some of the other ones, we talked about some of the other lead singles, of which there was like 7. Like the Dram record, I think is fine. Vince is cool, but if anything, that just sounds like a Vince song more than anything.
What about Pop Can, man?
Pop Can, again, he dominates the whole song. Some of these features are they don't feel like features. They just feel like their own songs. Right,
and it's weird. Pop Can is so like fun. Every song I've ever heard Pop Can on is fun. This song is not.
He was like the OG mainstream like dancehall guy in the States.
Yeah, and they somehow made a Pop Can song not fun.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I like it.
Yeah, well, Gorillaz is always just very melancholy. Like they always just talk about like a feeling of like the world's gonna end or like things are horrible. So I wasn't necessarily expecting this to be like great and like uplifting, but there are only a couple of like really high points. Like Feel Good Inc., though it's kind of a song about like depression and just like walking around feeling like things are horrible. It's still this like awesome song, and when De La Soul comes on, they fucking murder it. And even on this, like De La Soul,
I was pretty underwhelmed by the De La one on this one.
What is it called? Moments.
Yeah.
So I don't know, a little disappointing for sure. Did you have any songs that did stick out to you?
I mean, other than the Pusha one, which is Let Me Out, that was probably the only one I can really think of. Again, the Vince one's okay.
Right.
But I mean, I was listening to an interview with Damon Albarn, Twilight Tone, who's a producer, did a lot of work with Common, helped Damon with the album, and Paginus of De La was there as well. And they were kind of just talking about the thought behind this album and how they were like pitching it to all the people they got for features. And they were saying that, this was in the summer, and they said that, imagine this being on the first day that Donald Trump is president. And they were like, yeah, at the time it was just a hypothetical.
Right.
But also, as you'll notice in the Pusha verse, they edited out any references.
The names.
Obama, Orlando, and Trump were all edited out because they didn't want it to. They wanted it to feel timeless.
Right.
And
that way you can fit.
They didn't want to date the record.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, still, I get. It's kind of like I always harper back to J. Cole's last record. It's like, I saw what you're trying to do,
Right.
but it didn't work for me. Sorry.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like Gorillaz is a band that can come up with some really good songs, but in terms of albums, other than maybe like Plastic Beaches.
Plastic Beach.
Yeah, Plastic
Right.
Beach. Yeah, I think that's like their only album that I can say was really like well done. And
Not
the
even
other
Demon
ones-
Days.
Yeah, Demon Days. There were a lot of low points, but then they had some really really high points on it too. It's just like for me, there were more songs that stood out than just the Pusha song. Like Charger with Grace Jones was really fucking good. Busted in Blues getting a lot of love. I don't know. I feel like the biggest problem with Gorillaz is that they rely so heavily on features that it's hard to even really like judge them as a band. Which I
Yeah.
mean, it's really just Damon
I mean,
Albarn and
back in the day, people
Jimmy Hewitt.
that's what all people talked about.
Hewitt.
Like, how do we even are these a serious act? How do we talk about them?
But he's such a serious artist, Damon Albarn.
Right, but
And his source material is
it still
so,
kind of comes off as his side gig.
right, which
It's not Blur,
yeah, but Blur hasn't been around for
It's true, and they haven't had much success
Long
in the
time.
States anyway.
right.
Twilight Tone was saying in the Hot 97 interview that there's no samples, as you can tell, and it also doesn't have a futuristic sound. They wanted the sound to be like a sound of now,
Right.
which also is kind of weird to me because I thought you didn't want to date it.
And the sound was really expansive. It wasn't just like one sound. It was like went from like indie rock to like Hallelujah Money sounds like you'd hear it, I don't know, in like the 1950s to some indie or some dancehall and reggae. I don't know.
I mean, there's a song with Anthony Hamilton on here, but
Yeah.
I think it just seems like it's kind of overstuffed with like the themes and what they're trying to say, and that's not helped by the fact there's just like 5 interludes that are like 15 seconds each,
Right.
and a few that are a little longer.
Just weird.
So with that, it's 20 tracks, 26 for the deluxe. It's just
It's long.
I started zoning out at the end. It was
Right.
just, I don't know.
The one thing we'll say is that I
And
think
and they said there was also
Sure.
tons of other songs they had to leave in the cutting room floor. So it
Right.
really doesn't seem like, because they're farming so much work out the features, it's kind of like we have our general idea, but with all these people working on it, it just clearly isn't cohesive.
yeah, I would agree. It's not cohesive. I think the only thing I would say about this album that's different is it's a little bit dancier. Like I feel like the beats are a little bit more made for like a crowd. So I think it will actually play really well at like a festival or in concert.
Well, I'm sure it'll be fun, yeah.
But just for kind of like sitting at your desk or driving around in your car or just even hanging out like a weekend day, like I would never put this album on just for fun, like just to listen to.
No,
it
it's
again.
fun. Yeah. Again, like, and as they're saying, like the kind of mindset they're trying to capture, that's not re-listenable in my book.
Right.
So
I mean, if I had
and
to,
they were acknowledging that it depends how the fans view it. They were
Right.
thinking like they were geniuses. They're just explaining their process. So,
sure,
again, like Cole, you went for it, so we'll see what people think.
just folding clothes, man. Well, if I had to grade this album, I'd probably give it like a C.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad Gorillaz is back though, and I hope that they don't go away for too long.
Sure.
But this kind of seems to be their MO. Like every 3 to 4 years, they'll drop an album, and
And
it's very sad.
I said this was 7-year gap.
So, I mean, things were good for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're not.
Yeah, I don't know. It just is.
Yeah, but
Long albums, bad track record with us.